All right,
We're
so
good. We're
my
good.
name's
How you
Steve
doing,
Leo.
Steve?
How's it going, Teddy? I'm one of the master trainers for VertiMax, so I'm going to be hosting another podcast live show here, the VertiMax VIVE podcast and live show. Today I have Ted Butler on. He's out in Kentucky, runs an awesome facility and company called Operation Athlete. I'm going to let him do his intro and then ask him some more basic questions, but no one will do a better job than him, so I'm going to let him introduce himself. Go for it, Ted.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Happy to be here. But Operation Athlete, it like first started, I had a young kid, wanted him to be great, wanted him to be a great athlete, and was very, very blessed to figure out that it's more than just lifting weights. I learned from a guy, first introduction to this was Tim Grover in Chicago, obviously very famous right now because of the whole ESPN thing on Jordan and watching MJ and what he did. And then I was really blessed to be able to go into his facility for a few weeks and realize that creating a better athlete was way more than just lifting heavy weights. And there was just so much more to it, so many different components to it. So that became very, very important to me in my life. And it literally led me down the path here. I've been lucky to work with currently it's like 6 or 7 guys in the NBA, guys that have played, that some are household names, some are guys barely making it, a lot of pros overseas, a lot of guys, Division I athletes, and then kids that just have the dream and still dying. And those guys get just as much attention as the top guys. That's the truth. So I just love people with a passion. I love people that are pursuing something, and it also allows me to be really creative, which I love to do.
No, that's awesome stuff. I mean, we just met about a year or so ago. Ted, you just came on to the VertiMax Master Training Team a little over a year, right? It's been about a year and a half or so. I think you've been involved with us.
Yeah.
So
Yep,
I know we hung out at the summit, which was great. It was great to get to know you, and I know we hit it off because you're an East Coast guy by nature, New York, New Jersey. So
absolutely.
I think we got a lot in common.
There you go.
Some of the things that I noticed about you was, one, your imagination for training is pretty amazing. I see you online all the time. I see all your Instagram and social media stuff, and I think you have a pretty good imagination of training. But what I'd like to compliment you on, number one, is I think you have a purpose at the same time. I think there are some coaches that may shuffle a lot of things up, put a workout together and do it, but I think you have a plan going in. Even though it's creative, there's a plan of why you're doing things. So I don't know if I'm accurate with that statement.
Yeah. No, literally, I tell my guys, especially when they first start with me, and when I say guys or girls, right? Of course. You can ask me at any given point in time, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And in my world, especially when I'm training athletes, the whole purpose of you coming to me is so that you play better. That's it. Now, sometimes that might also be getting more weight on a lift, or being able to do extra bands or whatever might be the thing that transfers over. But everything that we do, the whole premise is, will this make them play their sport better? Period. That's it. Now, doing that sometimes will get you more jacked and it'll make you look better and give you more confidence and swag because of that. But without question, everything is, will this drill make them better? And then I study, I watch how athletes move. I'll watch games and have no clue what the score is because I'm watching the way this guy moves. I'm watching the way his footwork goes. I'm watching the way that she literally got beat last time and how she attacks it the next time. Like, how did she compensate? How did she correct what she did? And then those things are transferred over into our training. You can never replicate game situations exactly, but the closer we get to that, the more it's going to transfer over to how they play.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think you made a great point there. It's something that I try to do as well, is you need to watch all sports. I think there's probably many coaches like you and me are probably a little bit more football-based, track-based, but there's so many other sports out there that kids are now participating in, whether
hockey.
It be hockey.
Don't forget hockey.
Hockey, that's another bread and butter for you, right? So, I mean, there's so much out there. And I know, listen, everybody wants to train a football player, right? Or the big stud, but there's so many kids that need help in these different areas and different sports. So I think it's important. I think it's important for you guys to do that. So
absolutely. Yeah. And then with the other thing about the different sports is the kids who train with athletes from other sports, they pick up intangibles. They pick up things that they never, ever would have gotten just training with guys in their sport.
Yep.
So like right now I have two of the last 3 bigs on Kentucky Kentucky men's basketball. Very blessed. Marcus Lee and then Nick Richards, we just started. And we do a lot of training with them alone, right? But when I put them against a Division I soccer player who might even be a female, who is crazy fast and stamina, like can run for miles, do you know how much that helps them? So I got these guys that are 6'11", and they're going against some girl that's like 5 foot nothing, right? And she's blistering fast and quick. It helps everybody. It's incredible. Again, we don't do that all the time, but that 20-30% of speed and quickness and lateral movement, when we can create a condition or a situation where they're going to improve, right? We all know the whole thing. Like if you're not with people better than you, right, you are not going to improve. Okay. So I can't really find people who are better than a 6'11" basketball player at being a 6'11" basketball player. But when I dissect those attributes that make him a great basketball player, now I can find somebody who might be quicker than him in another sport. I might find somebody that moves laterally better than him in another sport. One of the guys I'm working with now that is so much fun to work with, because I had Jed just got drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and I've been working with him since high school, right? I remember we were talking just yesterday about when he couldn't decide whether to go to Alabama or all these other schools, and it worked out pretty good for him, right? Alabama and Saban, and it was like, come on, where else are you going to go? However, but with Jed, how am I going to get somebody bigger and stronger than him at his position? No, I can't. But I can get people that are better than him at 4 or 5 little things, different attributes of him being a player, and we throw those at him. So he has to improve better than that. Now it takes the right guy. A lot of people, their ego gets in the way, right? They think, well, I'm in the NFL, or I'm in the NBA, or I'm MLB, or I'm a pro hockey player. How are you going to put this person against me? I've had 2 guys in the NFL that came here, and this was not for them, because they just think they should go against guys on their par, on their level.
Yeah.
And they didn't last long, to be honest with you, but that's okay.
No, listen, I think, listen, you've been in the game for a long time, and I think there's a lot of people that do the same thing. And you can't get upset, I think, sometimes. Sometimes you're just not a good fit with certain kids. Sometimes it just isn't a good fit. I've had the same thing, and for a while it hurt me. I said, well, why don't they want to train with me? And then I realized I'm not what they want, and that's okay. I'm not their cup of tea, and that's all right.
Yep, absolutely. And it's better to figure that out quick. It's better to figure that out as fast as you can, so you don't waste their time. I think as a trainer, Steve, you better believe that your training is the best there is. Now we can learn different things, right? The things I've learned from Chris Gorez, the things I've learned from my guy Bobby Stroop at APEC down in Texas, and the things I learned at Nike World Headquarters are incredible. But I feel, and it's going to sound, egotistical, but I like to feel like when people come to me and give me their money, that there's no place in the world they'd rather be. You know what I'm saying? That they would get what we're bringing. But when you learn all those things, now how do I bring that to them? Right? How do I get that to them? It's cool to have a really cool toolbox, dude. But if you don't find application and reasons to use that really cool new drill that you have, what's the point of it?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one of the things is there's so much information out there compared to what I started over 20 years ago. You can go on the internet, you can go to social media. There's so many more products. Obviously, I think we work for one of the best product companies around doing VertiMax. Being said, how have you, number one, utilized the VertiMax recently and then in the past? Has that changed? And then I see you incorporate some other different training modalities. How do you kind of mesh all that in for your training program?
Yeah. Okay, so listen, so the premise is, number one, how do I make them better at their sport, period, right? That's one. Everything else is kind of cool because looking good, feeling good is going to give them more confidence and all of that. But how do I make them better at their sport? So you take the Raptors, right? You take the Raptor. A Raptor can do 2 things. It can make me work a little bit harder at my full speed movement, whether it's running, track or field, on the ice, like what we did with these things on the ice, and what we will continue if it wasn't for this COVID time right now, is you put those Raptors on the ice, and we found a real creative way to connect them to the rink, to put them on boards, right? We can resist the speed of a hockey player. So now that Raptor is pulling them from the back, right? So now they have to work extra hard. So that's going to develop some power and some force application, right? But then when you turn it, now it's assisted, or what some people would call overspeed, but we like to refer to it as assisted. Now their body is understanding what it means to skate at, let's say they skate at 26 miles an hour. Let's just throw that number out there. Now they know what it feels like to skate at 27, 28, 29 miles an hour, right? Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. It is off the charts. Now they can expect it. It's like the first time you get A's in a class. Once you get it, once you get an A, guess what I expect as a parent? You better get A's. You showed me you can do it. Mm-hmm. And I know that the athleticism in us works that way as well. Once we prove it, once we demonstrate it, Bill Parcells said that confidence comes from demonstrated ability. So once you show a body, once you teach that body how to go faster, how to be stronger, how to hit harder, it knows it can do it. So let me tell you what, you talk about being creative. My dad's like the proverbial starving artist in Brooklyn, New York, right? So creative. And all my life, I felt like I wish I had that artistic gene. I wish I got that, right? Because it's incredible, some of his artwork. But I realized that my canvas is what I do with athletes. And using the Raptor, so now with the Raptor, right? Just the Raptor or the VertiMax, like off platform. Anything you do in sport, any move, I don't care what it is. Now I can resist it. I can make it harder to develop some power and strength, but I can also assist it. I can also make you do that movement, that skill, just a little bit faster. And speed is everything in sport performance. It's everything. It really, really is. It's like the top three. It's like what are the best attributes? What are the most important attributes? It's speed, and then maybe strength and all that. But that's where we're at.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, I think we're on the same point when it comes to working with athletes. I mean, that's what I do. Speed is on my background. And we had a good question come in because this is something that I think about all the time. When you get a new kid, how do you set the expectations up for the kid and manage that for the parents? I think you have to set it for the kid, but you may have to manage it more for the parent. Do you have an initial consultation, evaluation? What is your process when you get a new client?
Oh, that's interesting. So I don't have one way because every parent's a little bit different. You get the parents who say, literally kill them, like I get that, I'll get that. And then I'll get the parents that basically, little Tommy, and believe me, I'm very sensitive to it because I was like that with one of my kids, and the other kid, I was like, I trusted the coach. I was like, just go to town, do what you do. And then with some parents, there was a lot of background. That I had to share, that they had to share with me, or I have to share with them about that kid. So it's a little bit different. I'm a believer though at heart. Like I really am a dreamer, right? So when people come into me, the most important thing I'm looking at is, do they really want what they're saying they want? Mm-hmm. Like everybody says they want to be good. I've never had a player who comes in here and says, hey, I really want to be average. And, whether I play doesn't matter. Like that doesn't happen. So everybody comes in here and says, I want to be the best and I should be playing Division I, or I should be playing college, and coaches aren't seeing me, right? And then I always say this, we have a joke here. It's like, I won't learn your name until you've come back like 5 or 6 times, right? And that I'm not telling anyone else to do that, but we have a strong, we have a results type of model here that like people will try us out, and it's really, really challenging. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't come back. They do not come back. The people who train with me, they don't come here for training. They become part of it, right? So that's the thing. So all the thank you texts I get and everything is like, Ted, thank you for letting me be part of OA. Thank you for letting me be a part of that, And so that's the culture. So back to the question about parents and setting that expectations. I really tell parents this all the time. I say, measurables are very important. I'm not joking. How high is the vertical jump? How many points are they scoring in the game and everything? But I say, you have to trust me. You have to trust me. Because I'm a parent first and foremost, right? And I understand that when somebody trusts you with their child, or somebody trusts you with their career, like when you get a professional athlete that just signed a contract, I can't try to outdo other trainers that, like carry like all the pro athletes he has and everything. But, I have a guy who just signed a multi-million-dollar contract. That's pretty important. Like that you're not giving them smoke and mirrors, right? Mm-hmm. That you're going to help them reach that expectation. But so it's the same thing with parents. I'm like, trust me on this, explain to me what we need to do with your child. Right. And then I tell them what it's going to take, based on what I know. They need to be here 3 or 4 days a week. If the kid's already great and they're already in season, they may only need to come 1 or 2 a week. But if your kid's slow as molasses, right? Really, really slow. They didn't hit the genetic lottery. And all of a sudden, they want to be the leadoff hitter on the baseball team. Right. I say, listen, we might have to change that, or okay, get here 4 days a week. Let's see what we can do. You know what I mean? But you got to be honest. You have to be really, really honest. But that's all I know to do.
Well, I think honesty is one of the difficult things for a lot of coaches because
Right.
listen, you want to get clients in, you want to make money, you want to make a difference and make them better, but it's how do you balance it? And listen, time is always an issue for a lot of kids. They're playing on club teams and high school sports
Yeah.
and all of that. And I think
And
sometimes
we come third.
last. Yeah, we're last.
Like we do. Yeah. Because the coach, the team first, then the guy that does the skills, right? The guy that does the skills, right? And then the strength and conditioning, which I don't even consider myself strength and conditioning. It's more like high performance, how to rip someone's head off, how to have so much passion that people don't even want to talk to you because all you're thinking about is how to get better, right? You know, like that's what we teach. That's what we teach here. It's a pretty driven culture, right?
Yeah.
And what's so bad is it drives me nuts when the kid needs to be here more than anything else, but they think going and working on free throws and layups or team practices, where you look at a team practice and the kid that hour on the rink or the field or the turf, whatever, and they probably get 11 minutes of actual work, right? Maybe 12 minutes of actual work. And it drives me nuts where that becomes first. But we need to know our order, right? We need to know the way it is. That's who we are, and we just got to make it so good that kids start begging their parents, saying, "Hey, I want to go to OA. I want to go." It's really simple. There's two people, three really. There's the people who can't wait to come here and train, that can't wait because they've seen results and they love it and they love the people that they train with. You get people that are like dreading it, like, oh my gosh, I gotta go. Those people don't last. And the more we can identify them, it's like, hey, listen, there's other options, And then there's people in the middle. And these people I really put a lot of emphasis on. They might not like it, but they know they need it, right? They know they need it, because there's a lot of things I do. I don't really like it. You have to see the vitamins I'm taking right now. I can't stand it. I don't like the pills. But I know I need it, right? So then I get a lot of value with that. So I get a lot of athletes that they might not enjoy. It sounds cool, looks good on Instagram, the grind and the work and all of that, but they don't like it. They don't even pretend, but they know they need to be here. They know it's going to help them. I love those people. I love trying to help them turn into loving it. Okay. And trying to enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've noticed, using the VertiMax, and I have more and more equipment in my facility or when I'm out training, they love the VertiMax. So what is your first impression, or I should say, what are the kids or clients' first impression when they see that? Because if they've never seen it before, they're probably like, what the heck is this thing I'm getting hooked up to? How do they react, and how do you kind of introduce it to them?
Yeah. So it's funny. Now, the VertiMax, it's changed. It's changed. It's great. More and more people have seen it now and know what it is. There are very few athletes who come in the door who don't at least know what it is, right? But I am still just floored at how many people didn't use it or haven't used it or haven't been exposed to it. And then I want to go and like bang my head against the wall when I find people that are part of programs, some collegiate teams, where they have a VertiMax and they haven't used it enough. Because I'm sitting here saying, if I was starting a gym, if I was starting a training business, there's a lot of different pieces of equipment that we both need, right? We need them. You need all these different things. But first and foremost, I'm getting a VertiMax. That's it. And if I can't obtain a VertiMax right away, I'm going to get a Raptor. And then if I can't even get that, which I would figure it out, but if I couldn't, I'm saving my money till I can get those two pieces of equipment, because they are absolute game changers. Because again, sport performance is movement. It's moving in space, getting to space. It's moving with people, getting away from people. And the Raptors and VertiMax technology does that like nothing else, like absolutely nothing else. I've had to get real creative now with the COVID times, because there's still people who don't have a VertiMax, right? So we're using other bands. So as much as I love that, I realize how important the VertiMax really is, because it's just a completely different form or a different type of technology. So let me tell you this. This is I think, a tip or a hint. If you get a VertiMax, right? And this might sound really, really bad. It's not the equivalent of telling somebody the first time they squat to throw 385 on there. It's not that. Don't think of that. But I think the VertiMax, one of the first things I love to do is put people on a VertiMax with a really high resistance, even though they're not ready for it, even though we're not going to train them with that for months, if ever. I load it up really, really tight, let them do about 5 or 6 jumps, take it off, and then let them jump. And it is incredible. They laugh. I've done this with adults. I do it with the moms and the dads, obviously with all the athletes. I think that first experience is incredible. And I think it's very, very valuable. Sometimes in life, if we baby step people, we might not get a chance to show them, right? So I think if you get somebody and the first time they're on a VertiMax, do it. One of the things I've been able to do, and if it's only if you have parents who kind of work out, right? You can't take a guy that's not training at all and he brings his kid in and say, hey, let me get you on the VertiMax. Let me show you this, right? But if you get a parent that, you know, they go to Orange Theory or they go to the Y or whatever, and I say, hey, you're pretty active, right? Come here, throw this belt on. Let me show you this. And they become believers within seconds. It really is one of those things that like you have to try it to believe it. You really, really do. But once you do, you become a believer really quick, really, really quick.
Yeah, and I think one of the things when it comes to training, do something that I do. You need to stimulate them. They need to feel something. They need to feel a difference. Once they feel that, they get a little bit more bought in, right? I think that's part of it.
Right. No question. No question.
And then another question coming from John Wright. How do you fix your rates right now in new market areas, especially, you know, what's going on now? So if you're in a new market, how would you set up your pricing? We talked a little bit about that the other night.
Yeah. Okay. So John, like serious as anything, man. Confidence is a big deal. It's a really big deal how you package, how you position yourself. You know, my goal is always to be the most expensive, period. Like that might sound weird, but I had somebody, it was funny. It was really funny because somebody said, hey, how come your rates are 30% more money than anybody else's? And I said, because my training's 100% better, you know? So that's a big deal. You know, that's a big deal on that. When I first started out, it wasn't that way. When I first, so you said a new market. So a new market today may be the online world. It might be the virtual world. So if you're new, you know, you're going to have to do what you always do in a new business or a new market is you're going to have to do everything you can to get clients to experience what you do, especially if you're good. If you really believe in that you're good at something, money will follow. It really will. I'm not saying give stuff away like crazy, but in the beginning, you're going to have to. And if you get somebody who is going to grow your business, who is basically like a billboard, they're famous, they're a local celebrity, they're a professional athlete. If you have a chance to work with them and you know what you're doing and you're good, do everything you can to get them in the door and let them see what you're all about, you know, do everything like that. But you do need to keep your pulse. You need to keep your finger on pricing in your area. You absolutely do. Like I'm blown away at how much money people pay in the DMV area, Washington, DC. Like I can't even believe it. Like groups of 8 kids all paying $75 or $100 each. And I'm like, for an hour? like I don't know. That blows my mind. Same thing in Miami, you know, a couple of things like that. So like if you try to go do that and you live, you know, in where I live in Lexington, Kentucky, like that would be way too high, right? Way too high. But I really find like I want to know what everybody's charging and I want my rates to be at least 15, 20, 25% better, more, because I think our training is at least that much better.
No, it's a good point. And kind of transitioning into the virtual training, one, let's talk a little bit about where you're at with that. And then how did you figure out the pricing for that model? Because I think that's something where people just aren't really sure how do you price that out and what does that really include?
So yeah, so I'll tell you, there's a couple of things that I found that I figured out that I did not. I was not a fan of virtual or online training. You know, I have a couple of good friends that make a killing doing it. I know a couple of guys that have gyms. Their gyms have become literally studios. They've only been studios for like 5 or 6 years. They stopped training. It's just filming content, and that's fine. But I love the personal interaction like I do. However, this has forced us, right? This has forced us to do a lot of different things. This has forced me to do a lot of different things. The pricing on it was weird. So the pricing was, so let's just say, I'm just throwing this number out there. If I work with a team, right? Because I work with a lot of teams, because that's who I'm doing a lot of the virtual with. And let's just say I get $150 for that hour, right? Let's just say that number. Why would I charge less? It's still my hour, right? It's still my hour that I'm taking away. Now, I'm able to, because it's new and people still don't value it that way. People consider it to be a little cheaper than if you come on. And it is true. It is true. I don't have to travel there, right? If I'm doing virtual, and I don't have to take the time to get back to my place. So that is extra time. So now I can go bam, 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 right? I can do that. So I'm able to discount it a little bit. So what I did is I basically charge about half of what I would normally charge. That's been a number that's worked decently for me. Now, and it still works. So if you have multiple kids, and then also like I have a kid, I'm training a kid. He's going to be in the NBA draft. He's in France. So obviously I had no other choice but to do that. That has gone so well that what we're discussing right now is we're having him train with me virtually with all the equipment. What are we going to do when he's playing? So in a typical NBA season, right, with 82 games and playoffs and all of that, is he going to train? We're trying to figure out his body, right? Is he better training 3 hours before a practice, 4 hours before a practice? Can he even train on game day or not? You know, Jordan had a system. He was going to train 4 days a week. It didn't matter. It did not matter if he had an NBA game, a playoff game that night. He trained. I forget what it was. I was going through it in one of his interviews and stuff. And sometimes their stories change a little bit. So that's why I have to study and study and study and make sure I'm getting the truth there. But he trained on several NBA championship games. That night he had a game and he still did his regular normal workout because nothing was getting him off that. And that worked for him. That is zero. There is zero to take away on that as far as how you should train. But what it is it's deliberate. It is absolutely, it's got to be deliberate when you train, when you practice, how many hours, right? This is what I call being a pro about being a pro, right? So we're trying to figure that out. And it's so great to do this virtually. So some days we're going to set it up. All right, so he has a game, he has practices, he has a big skill session. Let's train 2 hours ahead of time. Let's train 4 hours ahead of time. So we're trying to do that with both his nutrition and his training, but puts him on fire for the things that he makes money on when he plays, right? Because we have to have a strategy for when he becomes a pro. So that's been so this has been a big blessing on that. And then there's a couple of things that I figured out with online training that I had no idea about. I had zero idea on this. Number one, you need to be, whatever your energy is normal when you're doing a training session, it needs to be up 10 times. It's insane. There's no like setting them up on a drill and they're doing well. You know, one of the things about training live is one of the best things is it's better to undercoach than overcoach. Let them figure some things out. Let them make some mistakes, right? I mean, I'm sure you know that. However, online, I found it to be a little bit different. Silence is like, what's going on? Silence is like no one's talking.
Yeah, there's no feedback.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I already get tired of hearing my voice. Like online, I'm like, it's a little tough. It's a little tough. Your background and lighting, that should be deliberate. You have to really pay attention to that. Not just background as far as the props or the stuff or the equipment, but like who's in the background, you know, do you have a guy mopping in the background, you know, like what's going on with that? You have to be able to demo. You have to be able to demo if you're going to even think about this, especially if you have new people. Some of my people who have been with me forever, I can say, all right, so we're doing single leg love and we're going to go backwards and we're going to zigzag and then we're going to stop and then we're going to plant and we're going to do all this stuff. People who have been with me, they know that. They know our system, right? They know what we do.
Yep.
But boy, when you get new people and new teams, you better be able to do the demo, okay? Which goes into the next thing. You got to have everything written down. So I usually, the way I train is I have a template. I have like 6 categories that we're going to hit, right? That I know we're going to hit. And I'll try to get real creative based on what I'm getting that day from the group or the individual. Online, there's so many things that can go wrong. Like you might have a bad connection. The sound might not be good. All this other stuff. You need to write down everything you're going to cover that day just in case your brain is not working and you have all these other problems. So that has helped me a lot. And then the equipment and the age you're going to use, right? You have got to make sure everybody has that ahead of time. So let's say one group, we would like the best we could do is everybody was grabbing soup cans, right? Just a little bit of weights, working a little bit of shoulder mobility and range of motion stuff, right? Well, you tell them to get it while you're doing a session, that's 15 minutes or 10 minutes. Everyone's running in that kitchen, going and grabbing their stuff, right? And then we're going to use shoes for hurdles. I figured out shoes for hurdles are the greatest thing. Like they're better than even maybe having some hurdles, right? And for cones, go to that shoe, go to that shoe. And then if you're doing the Zoom, like have Jordans or Kobe's, like I make sure I have really cool looking shoes when I do all my stuff. So that's really, really important. And then also do everything you can to make sure that the people you're training, that you can see what they're doing. I can't tell you how many times I just see the top of their head or their foot, and, you know, and it's like, and it's not terrible. Some people are shy, but you're like, hey, we are here to have a training session. And the first thing I explain to everybody is we're not here to keep you in shape or make it where when you go back to real training with your team or your coach or with me or personal with your guy, that you're not in that bad a shape. We're trying to still improve, right? We are still trying to improve. And therefore, to do that, I need to see how you're moving. I just have to see how you're working and how you're exercising. Definitely, like, especially with female athletes, it's like, okay, if they're doing hip thrusts or a bridge, you know, certain angles are just better, more appropriate, right? I mean, you need to be aware of that. You really, really do. And you need to tell people that. You need to say, hey, face that way. So you don't say, hey, your butt shouldn't be facing this way. You say, hey, face that direction, and then I need you to do this. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be really, really careful on that because a lot of people are shy or don't want the camera on them. But if our job is to help them move and run and be stronger, we do need to see what they're doing, okay? And then the final thing on that, press record. You have to press record. I have had some great sessions, and so a lot of the teams, especially the college teams, right? People are home now and they have jobs. They have other things that they have to do, or they have to watch their baby brother or whatever. So they can't make the designated time of the session. So like there's a couple of basketball teams will train and 8 to 10 will show up and there'll be 5 or 6 that aren't there. So they're going to get the video recording later, right? Mm-hmm. And I had a couple that I forgot to hit record, and it's like, oh, it's just terrible.
I've done the same thing.
Oh, it's just and the session goes great, and you're like, oh, I wish I had that. So very important. Yeah. Press record. That should be number one.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense, right? How have you felt as far as timing? I know I've done hour sessions myself with virtual training, but I've noticed a 30, 45-minute has been a little bit easier to handle. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
So that's wild that you come up with that. 45 to 50 minutes is gold. It's gold. I think their attention span is there for that long, you know, and we're pretty high intense. It's more intense than your hour and 15-minute session at your place. Like not as many water breaks and stuff, I think. And I'm very impatient online. I'm like, all right, get a drink, take a big break. And it's like 10 seconds later, I'm like, all right, let's go, get over here. You're okay. Yeah. So I really think online, and I can't prove this or anything like that, but I think 45 to 50 minutes online is about 70 to 75 minutes live. So I really, really think that. So and I also think there's just so much you can do, to be honest with you, especially if they're not in a gym with a lot of equipment. So if we're doing a Zoom session, a training session, and it's almost all body weight stuff because we have, you know, a football team where I got 45 kids on the thing, right? And literally all I can do is get them with shoes and a towel, right? So we're going to do some isometric holds with a towel, and we're going to use some cans. No matter how good the session is, there's just so much you can do of that, right? You know, so I think, honestly, I'm with you on that. 45, 50 minutes is absolutely gold in what we're doing.
Yeah, because they're not running like they normally would, right? They're not running away from you, like coming back and setting up. They're right in front of you. So you like you said, you can just rapid fire, keep running through it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So, I mean, obviously, you know, you and I have been training for a long time, and we're doing something that we never thought we would do, right? When it comes to virtual training and maybe use newer training techniques. If you could go back, I say this every call, back in the DeLorean, back to when you first started training, what would you tell yourself, you know, when you first started training compared to what you know now? Obviously, you know more now than you did when you first started training, but what was there one or two things like, man, I wish I had really known that when I first started training?
Oh, wow. Yeah, man, I thought I would know every question you asked me.
I got you on one.
But not that. You know what? I'll tell you, like, the whole thing is this is you're better than you think. You are better than you think, no matter who you are. And self-doubt will crush you in this business, in confidence. And like even how you set up a drill. I know, okay, I'll tell you this. The best physical therapist, and I know he's the best from the results he gets. Okay. How many people will go to other guys, then go to this guy, and they get the right results. But he still does one thing terrible. terrible. He goes, all right, let's try this. Let's try this. And there's like this lack of confidence, like he's figuring it out and making it up as he goes along. But I know this guy because I've gotten to know him well. He knows exactly where he's going. He knows exactly what you need, right? He does. But he presents it in a way like he's kind of like just figuring it out. And so I think you have to be assured. You have to be positive in what you're saying. Now, you might say, let's do this. And it's like, oh man, it's not going right. They don't know what they're doing. It's not good. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Like the first thing with every drill is what could go wrong. Like that's the number one thing in your head, right? Yep. Could we hurt this person? Okay, so you need to know that. But number two is whatever you say, it's got to be with confidence, and then you need to be confident enough to change it. Change it. So extreme confidence needs to be portrayed in everything that you do. So when you start out, if I would have started out in the DeLorean, a long time ago, and I could tell myself, it would be like, stick with the 5 or 6 things that are rock solid. They're rock solid. Spend a lot of time there, and then introduce a new concept here, a new drill, a new exercise. Like I do that today. Like 75, 80% of what we're doing, I know tried and true, best stuff that this athlete can get. But we're gonna switch a few things almost every single session. We're gonna try a new variable. We're gonna try a new way to set it up. I always like to set up situations. So running to the cone and back, we don't really do that. But let's say we're running and I'm like, change direction. There's never gonna be a time where I don't say how much time is on the clock, what game situation we're in, and where are you playing. Like with Jed, I'm like, hey Jed. So Jed's gonna play for the Cleveland Browns. I'm like, Jed, it's January, and we're at Lambeau, bro. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? Or okay, he's a Brown. We're playing the Steelers, dude. This game's important. Can you smell it? Do you taste it? Do you feel it? It's freezing cold. You just played football in Alabama. Now it's freezing. You have snow all over you, right? We need to set up the conditions to make it as real as we can in that athlete's head. And then that's going to transfer over so much better. But whatever I say, it is with extreme confidence. Now, sometimes I say something stupid and I change it up. But while you say things, while you set up a drill, you have to have that person believe that it is the greatest drill in the world at that given point in time, at that moment. And then you can adjust. You have that freedom to do that. But the confidence you give to athletes is going to change your entire business. No question about it.
I think that's great advice. I mean, listen, I probably dealt with the same thing when I was younger. I think a lot of guys now come out of school, they get their CSCS or whatever they get, and they think, well, now I'm a great trainer.
Yeah.
You have to be confident. You can be confident and not know what you're doing a little bit too, and still be confident with it and kind of learn on the fly. And listen, you have to be available to make adjustments, and then that's going to be part of the process.
Absolutely, 100%. Yep.
A
good friend of mine who trains at Kentucky. It was wild. So one of the players now that plays for Wildcats, I asked him if they did this one drill, and he goes, he doesn't do that with me. He did it with other players. And I said, really? Did you ask him why? And he said, he looked at him. He didn't throw the drill under the bus. He didn't say it's stupid. He didn't say it's going to hurt you. He says, I just don't think we need that for what we're trying to accomplish. And I thought that was fantastic. Fantastic. Like talk to your people. Tell them we're doing this because, right? We're not doing this because. And I think that, so when you develop trust with your athletes now, like most of my guys, most of the people that have stayed with me through this whole COVID thing, the trust is ridiculous. It's really good. I don't deserve the trust they give me. Let's just say that, but I appreciate it.
No, you deserve it because, like you said, you're making that connection. I think that's the biggest key. So just to kind of wrap up, what advice would you give? I know we both do certifications. We work with a lot of other coaches. But what's some advice you would give in these times to some, whether new coaches or coaches that are out there? What was something you want to just tell them now?
Yeah, so I think all of us right now, this is new. This is the new, we're Lewis and Clark, man. Yeah. This is the new frontier right now, right? And I think it's almost like, in a way, it's a little exciting. It's like we're going back to just get some clients that we might not have chosen in the past, or we might not have had room for, right? So humble yourself a little bit. Train some people that might not have been your ideal, or your if you wrote down your avatar of who's your perfect client, right? They might not be there. Humble yourself. And you're going to expand and you're going to grow. Because I've taken on some clients I would not have ever dreamed of, ever dreamed of. And it's fantastic. it's really, really good. I love it. I'll brag on him. I have a kid that's a swimmer at Kentucky, and then his brother is he swam at St. Louis, and I had never trained swimmers before, and they're just awesome, man. It's just awesome. Athletes are athletes, or more importantly, people are people. People are people. So the thing I'm learning in this is I'm going backwards a little bit, in the sense of I'm not just taking the best of the best, and I really never liked that. I developed that reputation, and I get a lot of people who aren't great athletes, and they don't even try to come here, and they go to some other guys, and now some of them are shut down, and some of them are whatever, and it's going really, really well. But humble yourself, take as many new clients as you can, and you're gonna discover new niches that you really didn't think you were gonna do.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's great advice for everyone. Everyone is going
and get a VertiMax, bro.
Yeah, gotta get a version. I just ordered another one. I have another one coming. Well, thank you so much for getting on the call. It's been great to get to know you over the last year or so, and I look forward to
likewise
together. How can everybody get in contact with you or follow you if you want to give out your information, handles, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I put a lot on Instagram, Operation Athlete. It's Operation Athlete. My Twitter has been hacked like 6 times in the last year. So now once a week I send an email to Twitter and say, hey, will you guys give me my account this week? I don't get anything back. Hey, what about this week? So no Twitter. So really Instagram, and I have it where all my Instagram stuff copies to Facebook. I don't really get on Facebook. Don't send me a message on Facebook because I really don't check it. But if you want to send me a message, it's Operation Athlete. Go to Operation Athlete. And then my email is ted@operationathlete.com. So ted@operationathlete.com. Anyone can email me. That'd be fine. Or just message me on Instagram.
Great. I definitely recommend it. I follow them, and I love looking at your stuff on Instagram every day. It's been inspiring for me. I think we all need that as coaches when we see each other. It gives me a little bit more juice once in a while too. So
we got to come up with new ideas. It helps you get creative. No question.
That's it. And I hope you keep kicking butt out there in Kentucky. And I'm sure everyone got a lot from this podcast. If you're listening to this right now, go back, rewind, listen. There's a lot of good nuggets that Ted gave us on this podcast.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Ted. I appreciate it.
Peace out.